Welcome back to James and Elena's English Chat, your cozy corner for natural English. I'm James, and I am currently annoying everyone in my house.
Hello, everyone. And oh dear, James, what did you do this time? Did you lose your keys in the refrigerator again?
Not today. No, I have this song stuck in my head. I've been humming the same 5 notes for 3 hours. I can't figure out where I heard it, and it's driving me crazy. My wife actually had to leave the kitchen because she couldn't take it anymore.
I feel you. That is the worst. My husband usually does the same thing when he's working on his train models. He hums, and our cat just stares at him with such judgment. It's quite funny, really.
I'm glad I'm not alone. Well, today we're going to talk all about those little earworms, songs you can't stop singing, and how music fits into our daily lives. But before we get into the rhythm, we should check in with our listeners.
Exactly. Just a reminder that this podcast is designed for B1 and B2 intermediate learners. We speak naturally, but we keep things clear. If you don't catch every single word, please don't worry. That's part of the process. Just relax, let the English wash over you, and enjoy the conversation.
Spot on. Now, here is our roadmap for today's episode. First, Elena and I are going to share some stories about our musical habits. Some good, some slightly embarrassing. While we chat, I want you to listen for specific phrasal verbs like run into or get used to.
And after our chat, we will head over to Elena's vocabulary corner. That's where I'll pick out the best phrases and idioms we used and explain them simply, so you can start using them too. How about you, listener? Do you have a song in your head right now?
I bet they do now that we've mentioned it. Before we dive into the stories, could we ask a tiny favor? If you enjoy learning English with us, please hit that subscribe button or like the episode. It really helps us keep making these free lessons for you. It's like buying us a virtual coffee.
It truly helps, thank you. Now, James, back to this mysterious tune. Did you run into the song on the radio this morning, or was it something you heard in a shop?
That's the thing. I think I heard it while I was walking my dog. Someone was driving past with their windows down. It was just a second of music, but now I can't get rid of it. I've been trying to use one of those apps to find it, but my humming is so bad, the app just gets confused.
You probably need to get used to singing the right notes first. I remember once my niece asked me to sing a song from her favorite cartoon. I didn't know the words, so I just made them up. She looked at me like I was from another planet.
Kids are the toughest critics. My neighbor actually knocked on the wall earlier because I was humming too loudly while trying to catch up on some laundry. It's becoming a real problem, Elena.
Maybe your neighbor just has a different taste in music, James. Or maybe they were just jealous of your talent. But honestly, hearing you talk about the kitchen reminds me so much of growing up. In my house, music wasn't something you just sat and listened to. It was something you did while doing other things.
Oh, I like that. So it wasn't like a formal concert in the living room?
Not at all. My strongest memories are actually from the kitchen. My mom and dad had this old record player sitting on the counter, right next to the toaster. Every Saturday morning, while they were making breakfast, they would turn up the volume. The whole floor would shake just a little bit.
That sounds wonderful. What were they playing? Was it rock and roll or something more relaxed?
To be honest, I couldn't tell you the names of the artists. I was far too young to figure out who was singing. I just remember the rhythm. It was usually something fast and happy. My mom would use a wooden spoon as a microphone while she was cooking, and my dad would dance with me while he waited for the coffee to finish. We would all sing along, even if we were just making up the words. I can actually picture that. It's so much warmer than my house. We mostly just listened to the news on the radio. I didn't really come across much music until I was a bit older and found an old guitar in the attic. I thought I was going to be a rock star, but I think I take after my dad. I have absolutely no rhythm. I feel you. You don't need to be a professional to enjoy it, though. That's the beauty of it. When I look back on those mornings, I don't think about the quality of the singing. I think about the feeling of the sun coming through the window and the smell of toast. It's funny how a simple beat can bring back those specific feelings so clearly.
It really does. Even now, if I hear a certain type of drum sound, I feel like I'm back in that dusty attic. How about you, listener? Do you have a memory like that? Maybe a song your parents played on repeat, or a melody that reminds you of a specific room in your childhood home. I'd love to know if you were a kitchen dancer too.
I hope they were. It's such a great way to start the day. My husband actually bought a small radio for our kitchen recently. We're still trying to get used to having music playing while we wash the dishes. Our cat isn't a fan. She usually leaves the room when we start dancing, but it makes the chores feel so much lighter.
Exactly. It turns a boring task into a little party. I should try that with my laundry, though I think my neighbor might actually call the police if I start dancing and singing at the same time.
Well, maybe just stick to humming for now, James. But it's amazing how music is like a time machine, isn't it? It just takes you right back to those childhood beats.
It really is. You know, speaking of time machines, I had this incredible moment a few years ago when I was traveling in Japan. I was on a train looking out at the rain hitting the window, and I was listening to this very quiet instrumental piano track.
I can almost see it. It sounds very cinematic, like a scene from a movie.
Exactly. And now, every single time I hear that specific melody, it takes me back to that train seat. I can almost smell the damp air and hear the sound of the wheels on the tracks. It is like a memory anchor.
I love that term. Music really does anchor us to a place. It is strange how our brains link a sound to a feeling so perfectly. When you first heard it, did you think it would stay with you like that?
Not at all. I just came across it on a random playlist while I was looking for something to help me sleep. I didn't think much of it at the time. But now, if I am having a stressful day at home and my dog is barking at the window, I put that song on. It helps me calm down and figure out my thoughts.
That is so powerful.
I have something similar with a song I heard on a road trip with my husband. We were driving through the mountains and this old folk song came on the radio. Now, whenever I hear it, I do not just hear music. I see the green trees and feel the cool wind. It is like the music helps the memory sink in deeper, right? Without the song, I might have forgotten the small details of that train ride, but with it, the memory is still so fresh. How about you, listener? Do you have a song that as soon as it starts makes you feel like you are back in a different city or a different country?
I bet they do. It's like a mental scrapbook. My neighbor actually told me she keeps a travel playlist for every holiday she takes. She says it's the best way to catch up with her old memories when she's feeling a bit bored at home.
That is a brilliant idea. I usually just rely on my luck to run into a good song, but maybe I should be more intentional. My wife always tells me I need to be more organized with my phone. She has everything in folders, while my music library is just a giant mess.
I am with your wife on that one. I have a rainy day list and a sunny morning list. It helps me get used to the mood of the day. But there's something special about those songs that find you by accident, like your Japan melody.
Definitely. It is like the world gave me a little gift for that specific moment. I think I will start that travel playlist tonight. Even if I am just sitting on my sofa, I can pretend I am back on that train for a few minutes. But Elena, I have to be honest with you. My music library isn't all cool piano tracks and atmospheric sounds. There is a much darker side to my playlists.
Oh, this sounds like a confession. Tell me, James, what have you been hiding from us?
Well, my wife caught me in the living room yesterday. I had my headphones on and I was dancing very badly to this extremely cheesy pop song from the 90s. You know the ones with the synchronized dance moves and the matching outfits.
I know exactly what you mean. Those songs are so catchy, it's hard not to give in to the beat. Did you do the hand movements too?
I might have. My dog just sat there watching me, looking very concerned. I call it a guilty pleasure. You know, something you enjoy even though it's a bit embarrassing. I felt like a teenager again, but my knees definitely reminded me that I'm not.
I feel you. We all have those. I have a few songs like that myself. If I come across a certain disco track while I am cleaning the house, I have to turn up the volume. I usually use the vacuum cleaner as a partner.
Elena, I can't imagine you doing disco moves with a vacuum.
It's true. My husband once walked into the room while I was in the middle of a spin. He didn't say a word, he just turned around and walked right back out. I think he was trying to protect my dignity.
That is a wise man. How about you, listener? What is your ultimate guilty pleasure song? Is it a dramatic power ballad you sing in the shower? Or maybe a theme song from a cartoon you used to watch? Don't be shy. This is a judgment-free zone.
Exactly. Actually, James, I think these songs are great for learning English. Because they are often quite simple and the words repeat, it's easier to figure out what they are saying. It helps you get used to the rhythm of the language without it feeling like hard work.
So you're saying that my embarrassing 90s dance party was actually a study session? I like that excuse. I'll have to tell my wife that next time she finds me jumping around the sofa.
Absolutely. It's educational research. I always look forward to my cleaning sessions now because it's the only time I really let go and enjoy that bad music. It makes the chores fly by.
It really does. I think I've run into more people who love cheesy music than people who love cool music. It's a great way to catch up with friends, too, just confessing your weirdest musical tastes and laughing about it.
It's very human, isn't it? We don't always need to listen to serious, deep music. Sometimes you just need a silly melody to brighten your day.
That is so true. In fact, I have started using music to get through the things I usually hate doing. Like cleaning the bathroom or folding a mountain of laundry. I used to just sit there in silence, feeling a bit grumpy about it. But then I figured out that a bit of upbeat music changes everything.
Oh, absolutely. I'm exactly the same. I have a very specific routine for when I have to do the dishes. I put on my kitchen party playlist. It's full of high energy songs from the 80s. Suddenly, I'm not just scrubbing a pan, I'm the star of a show. It turns a chore into a celebration.
Haha, I can see that. For me, it's the daily walk with my dog. Usually, my mind is racing with all the things I need to catch up on at work or things I forgot to buy at the shop. But lately, I've been putting on some smooth jazz. It's like the whole world slows down. My dog seems to like it too, or maybe he just likes that I'm not rushing him as much.
I feel you. That sounds so peaceful. It's funny how different genres fit different tasks, right? I could never listen to jazz while cleaning the house. I would probably just fall asleep on the sofa with the vacuum cleaner still running. I need something that makes me want to move. It really helps me get used to the chores I usually try to avoid.
I get that. I tried listening to a heavy metal playlist while gardening once. It was a disaster. I was moving way too fast, and I think I accidentally pulled up some of my wife's favorite flowers because I was so into the rhythm. She was not happy. I had to figure out a way to explain that it was the drummer's fault, not mine.
Oh no. Maybe stick to the jazz for the garden from now on. But honestly, it turns a boring Saturday into something you actually look forward to. How about you, listener? Do you have a special ritual? Maybe you listen to a podcast like this one while you're commuting, or you have a specific song that helps you get through a difficult workout at the gym.
I would love to hear. It's like we're all finding ways to hack our brains to enjoy the boring bits of life. My neighbor actually wears these giant noise-canceling headphones when he mows his lawn. He looks like he's in his own little world, probably listening to something very different from the loud engine.
Exactly. It's about creating your own atmosphere. My husband does that too when he's organizing his notes. He needs complete silence for an hour, but then he will suddenly put on a very loud opera track for 5 minutes to reset his brain. It's his way of celebrating finishing a task.
Opera. Wow. I do not think I could handle that while organizing my desk. But that's the point, isn't it? Music is so personal. It turns these tiny, everyday moments into something much bigger and more fun.
I completely agree. But you know, James, even though music is personal, it's also the one thing that connects us all, no matter where we are from. It's like a secret language that everyone already knows how to speak. I actually had a moment like that a few years ago when I was traveling abroad.
Oh, tell me more. Were you at a big concert or something?
Actually, no. It was much smaller than that. My husband and I were in a tiny village in Italy. I was feeling a bit overwhelmed because I could not speak the language at all. I was trying to figure out the menu at a little cafe, and I felt so out of place. But then an old man sat down at a piano in the corner of the square.
That sounds like a movie scene. Did he start playing something famous?
He played this incredibly beautiful, slow melody. I didn't recognize the song, but it was so full of emotion. I noticed an elderly woman sitting at the table next to mine. She was alone, just drinking her coffee. We caught each other's eyes, and we both just stayed silent, listening to the music.
Did you try to talk to her?
I didn't need to. When the song finished, we both had tears in our eyes. She reached over, patted my hand, and gave me the warmest smile I've ever seen. We couldn't catch up on our lives or tell each other our names, but in that moment, we understood exactly how the other person felt. It was like the music had explained everything for us.
That is so moving, Elena. It's amazing how you can run into a total stranger and feel that close to them just because of a few notes on a piano.
Exactly. When I look back on that trip, I don't really think about the museums or the food first. I think about that woman and that song. It reminded me that even when we feel lost, music can help us find a connection.
I feel you. I think we've all had a moment like that. How about you, listener? Have you ever felt a deep connection with someone you didn't know because of a song? Maybe you were at a festival or just walking through a park and heard someone playing a guitar?
I would love to hear those stories. It really helps you get used to the idea that we're all part of the same big human family. We might have different words for things, but our hearts react to music in the same way.
Spot on. My wife always says that if politicians spent more time listening to music together, the world would be a much quieter, friendlier place. She's probably right, unless they all have my terrible taste in 90s pop.
Well, maybe they would just find a common rhythm eventually. It's all about opening your ears and your heart to what the music is trying to say.
It really is a universal language. But wow, we've covered a lot of ground today, Elena. I feel like my head is spinning with all these melodies and memories we have talked about.
I feel you. It has been quite a journey. We went from your mysterious humming in the kitchen to my disco dancing with the vacuum cleaner.
Exactly. I think it's a good time to look back at our map and summarize everything. We have talked about how music is like a time machine for our memories, how it helps us get through boring chores, and even how it connects us to people we don't even know.
It is so true. And for our listeners, we want to make sure you have the right tools to talk about your own musical world. Sometimes it's hard to figure out how to start a conversation about a feeling or a memory.
That is a great point. I've been thinking about some useful sentence starters. For example, when I hear that quiet piano track I mentioned, I always say, "This song takes me back to my trip to Japan." It's such a simple way to share a memory with someone.
I love that one. It's very evocative. Or if you're like me when I'm cleaning the house, you might say, "I can't help but dance when I hear 80s music." It's a fun way to admit to a guilty pleasure without feeling too shy about it.
Exactly. Or how about when you find a new favorite song by accident? You could say, "I ran into this song on a random playlist and now I can't stop listening to it." It happens to me all the time when I'm out walking my dog.
And if you're struggling with a melody like you were earlier, James, you can say, "I'm trying to figure out the name of this tune, but it's stuck in my head." It's a great way to ask for help from a friend.
I'm still doing that, by the way. My wife is still hiding in the other room because of my humming. But how about you, listener? Which of these phrases would you use first? Do you have a song that takes you back to a specific summer or a specific person?
I would love to hear those. Another helpful one for your daily routine is, "I'm trying to get used to listening to jazz while I work." It shows that you are experimenting with how music changes your mood.
Spot on. It's all about catching up with your own feelings and sharing them with others. Music gives us the perfect excuse to talk about our lives. I really look forward to hearing if these starters help you in your English conversations.
Me too. It's like having a map for your heart. You just need a few simple words to show people the way to your favorite memories.
That is a lovely way to put it. A map for the heart. I think I need that map more than most people. But before we move on, I noticed we used some really interesting expressions today. Some were about music, but we use them for everything, don't we?
We certainly do. That brings us to Elena's Vocabulary Corner. This is where we take a closer look at the phrases that make English sound natural. Today, I want to focus on 3 musical idioms and 2 very common phrasal verbs we use during our chat.
I'm ready. I'm always trying to figure out how to use these properly without sounding like a textbook.
Well, let's start with that one. To figure out. To figure out. This simply means to understand something or to find an answer after thinking about it for a while. It's like solving a little puzzle in your head.
Oh, I use that all the time. I spent 20 minutes this morning trying to figure out why my dog was barking at the cupboard, only to realize I'd left his treats inside.
Exactly. Or like yesterday, I had to figure out how to fix the strap on my favorite bag. It took some time, but I got there. Now, our second one is to get used to. To get used to. This means to become familiar with something so that it no longer feels strange or difficult.
I'm still trying to get used to the new layout of the grocery store near my house. I keep looking for the milk in the vegetable aisle.
I feel you. My husband is trying to get used to his new glasses. He says everything looks a bit too bright now. It just takes time. Now let's look at our first musical idiom, to ring a bell. To ring a bell.
I love this one. It's when something sounds familiar, right?
Spot on. You don't remember everything, but you have a small memory of it. Like when you hear a name and think, that rings a bell, even if you can't remember the person's face.
I used it earlier. That song I was humming really rang a bell, but I just couldn't name the artist. How about you, listener? Does that happen to you with English words sometimes? They ring a bell, but you can't quite remember the meaning?
That's a great question. It's a very common feeling. Our next idiom is a bit more serious. To face the music. To face the music. This means to accept the unpleasant consequences of something you have done.
I had to face the music when my wife saw the state of the garden after I tried to do the weeding while listening to heavy metal. I had to apologize and buy her new seeds.
That's a perfect example. Or if I break a dish while dancing in the kitchen, I have to face the music and tell my husband. It's about being brave and admitting a mistake. Finally, we have to play it by ear. To play it by ear.
This is my life motto. It means to decide what to do as you go along, rather than having a strict plan, right?
Exactly. You just react to the situation. For example, if my neighbor asks if I want to go for a walk later, I might say, "I'm not sure when I'll finish work, so let's just play it by ear."
I do that with cooking. I never follow a recipe. I just see what's in the fridge and play it by ear. Usually it's edible, but my wife might disagree.
Well, playing it by ear makes life an adventure. I hope these 5 phrases help you feel more confident in your next conversation.
Well, Elena, I think my brain is finally starting to catch up with all those idioms we just talked about. I might actually be able to face the music next time I break something in the kitchen or pull up the wrong flowers in the garden.
I hope so, James. But really, it has been such a joy talking about music with you today. It's one of those topics that just makes the time fly by, doesn't it? It feels like we just started and now we are already at the end.
It really does. But before we go, we have one very important thing left to do. It's time for your homework. Now, don't look so worried. This isn't the kind of homework where you have to figure out complex math or write a long essay. It's much more fun than that.
I love this task. We want you to go down to the comments section and tell us, what is one song that always makes you smile? It could be a song from your childhood, a track you happen to run into on the radio, or even one of those embarrassing guilty pleasures we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. I really want to know what makes you all happy. I'll be sitting on my sofa later, probably while my dog is trying to eat my socks, and I'll be reading through every single one of your suggestions. I might even add some of them to my own playlist. I need something to replace that song that was stuck in my head.
I'll be checking them too. My husband and I are always looking for new melodies to play when we are at home. And who knows, maybe your favorite song will ring a bell for another listener in our community. It's such a lovely way to connect with other people who are learning English just like you.
Spot on. It's like we're all part of one big global choir. And while you're there, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button or give us a like. It really helps us keep the music playing here at the podcast. Your support helps us get used to the long hours of recording.
It truly helps, thank you. And before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought. Learning a language is very much like learning to play an instrument. You're going to hit some wrong notes. You might forget the words, or you might struggle to figure out the rhythm of a conversation.
I definitely do that every single day. I'm the king of hitting wrong notes.
But that is okay. In music, a wrong note is just a part of the performance. It doesn't mean the song is ruined, it just means you're learning. So when you make a mistake in English, don't be too hard on yourself. Just play it by ear, keep going, and enjoy the melody of the language. The most important thing is that you keep playing.
I love that. That makes me feel so much better about my terrible humming earlier. Thank you, Elena. And thank you, listener, for spending your time with us today. It's been a real blast.
It really has. We can't wait to catch up with you in the next episode. Until then, keep listening, keep singing, and keep practicing your English.
Goodbye for now. See you next time.
Bye-bye, everyone.